I'll give you one more perspective. Chanakya was also a metallurgist.
Oh my God, how much and what all he did?
He was an architect. And when I say architect, not like architect of India, he actually knew the brick and mortar of how to construct a fort. So he could actually measure, this is the brick and mortar being used, this is the length of the road.
Would it be right to say very hands-on education?
Lessons from Chanakya childhood too. Number one, even if you have the advantage of being born in a teacher's family, you still have to be a good student.
असतोमा सद्गमय तमसोमा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योन्मान अमृतम गमय ओम शांति 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 From ignorance lead me to truth, from darkness lead me to light, from death lead me to immortality.
Welcome to EtherWire podcast. I'm Jyoti Rai. I'm joined by a very special co-host, Santosh Sirur.
So what kind of lessons can we learn from Chanakya's childhood?
So again, all these are folklores.
Yeah.
And one of my history professors told me, you can never actually go back and say this is the history. Because all about references, narratives.
Yeah.
So I would talk about what is generally spoken in our generation about Chanakya. So born Patliputra.
Yeah.
And what's the lessons? Number one, even if you are a born genius, you still require training. So there's this particular thing, okay, born genius, child prodigy, that's fine. So he or she has got it inbuilt in them, but still you require training.
Yeah.
But Chanakya said that, even if you're a born leader, which I think most of us are, you require training of leadership. Chanakya was fortunate that he was a brilliant born genius. He was a polymath, multiple disciplines, but he was fortunate to be born in an ecosystem where his father also was teaching the same subject.
Yeah.
So as the narrative goes, that his father's name was Acharya Chanakya or Rishi Chanakya. That's why we have this name Chanakya Putra Chanakya. His childhood completely out of Patliputra, but it seems that his father was against the that time king Dhanananda, and there's a public awakening, and he had to run away to Takshashila to save his life. His father was killed by Dhanananda because an Acharya actually having a public outcry can actually dethrone the king.
Yeah.
So all these are narratives, and then finally comes back and dethrones Dhanananda and makes Chandragupta Maurya. Lessons from Chanakya childhood too. Number one, even if you have the advantage of being born in a teacher's family, you still have to be a good student.
Yes,
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
So we always think, right, the father is a teacher, so studious to hoga hi. It's a visibly accepted fact.
Right.
Yeah.
And the second lesson is that even if you are the brightest mind, never get into that ego of intellect. So we have narratives that I heard that he comes back and he helps his friends who are also acharyas, because some of them may become teachers, some of them may not.
Yeah.
So I think my greatest lesson is that you may have a humble beginning or a great beginning. Chanakya had a great beginning because he had a wonderful teacher as a father. Yet he was absolutely, I would say, a person who could never be understood, because he was not the glamour guy who can capture in a camera. It will be as simple as walking around in a dhoti, but his mind was sharp to understand, and he could change the world perspective towards India.
Wow. I believe what you are today, somewhere it gets decided from the impressions of your childhood, the experiences that you come your way, and what you do with that.
Yes.
In absence of your parents, some parents are, some kids I have seen raised by neighbors or grandparents, because parents both will, died. But coming back, what you are today, the clues lies in your childhood. I think we also want to know that, Chanakya had to leave, go to Takshila because his father had become activist, and which is where we wanted to understand. So, as a childhood well lived in circumstances like this, he came out still as a kingmaker.
Yeah.
Now that's a substantiate insights to have. A kingmaker is an advisor, is a philosopher, is a mentor, a coach. How could that have happened over his childhood when he was brought back to defeat Dhananand?
I'll give you one more perspective. Chanakya was also a metallurgist.
Oh my God, how much and what all he did?
He was an
Okay,
architect. And when I say architect, not like architect of India, he actually knew the brick and mortars of how to construct a fort.
Wow.
So he could actually measure, this is the brick and mortar being used, this is the length of the road.
Would it be right to say very hands-on education?
Hands-on with a big picture. People who are hands-on sometimes can get into so much of micro,
Right.
they can lose the big picture.
Okay.
But people who are hands-on and with the big picture in mind, the vision that you want to create, are actually the best executors. Because micromanagers lose the big picture and they actually can confuse people.
Yeah.
Like I find, in a lot of organizations, where the top started with hands-off, but they don't like all this because
Right.
now I'm the boss. But that's also a problem. So he was hands-on, but definitely he was
Not a
one who-
micromanager.
No, but you can't fool him because if somebody is a micromanager, he can catch.
Yeah. But
Right.
he had the vision also, the right
Absolutely.
long-term vision.
The
probably.
Sanskrit word for this is Dura Drishta. One who can see the future and make the future or create the future.
Right. We are speaking about art of thinking. And I tried one of the questions from your book, which was out there. It just blew up on your face that we didn't think about it. Because I knew somewhere, even as a person, there was a challenge of communicating with folks because you felt different about the way you thought. ये कुछ अलग ही सोचती है या you are tagged as उल्टा सोचती है या कुछ अलग ही सोचती है. My point was, there was a question that you said that when a air hostess invites you with smile, now you're going to take a flight. The air hostess is going to invite Radhakrishnan Pillai, hello Mr. Pillai, Dr. Pillai, come, welcome on board, have a good flight. And imagine Mr. Pillai wants to ask her how to have a good flight. I think that made all the difference. What is the significance of how to think and to fix the thinking in our lives?
So there's a word in English, it's called clairvoyance.
Clairvoyance.
So I remember as a childhood, you said about living the impressions of childhood. I have been very actively involved, and thanks to my parents, you talked about parenting. 80% of your upbringing is because of your parents and prominently the mother, then your teachers and your friends. Fortunately, when I was a child, as part of Chinmaya Mission, and when I actually became part of the youth wing called the Chinmaya Yuva Kendra, I actually attended a camp. Now summer season is going on, a summer camp, and the title was Clairvoyance. It's much before Chanakya. And they taught us how to think. And let me tell you that I was so shocked. How to think? I have thoughts.
Yeah.
I mean, do
Very
you require
natural,
training in
yeah.
that?
To think, yeah.
But then you have friends going, you have some prominent teacher and your parents push you. I came back and I realized one thing, that we are not trained to think.
Yes.
For us, unfortunately, the education system also has become an examination system. It's all about memory skills.
Yeah.
So there's this joke by Swami Chinmayananji, before the exams I'm wise. I remember everything. After the exams I'm wise. I remember everything. But during the exams otherwise.
Good one.
Yeah, totally.
So coming back, is thinking something that can be trained? The answer is yes. Like I'll tell you, a lot of people saying just because I have thoughts I'm a thinker. No. It's like your wardrobe is full of clothes. But you choose which to wear and which not to wear. Can you have thoughts that you can choose to work on? Thoughts that are not required, and thoughts that you don't entertain, and thoughts that you delete. My father used to always tell me, he had a prominent influence in my thinking, saying that 3 people in the society are so prominent for the change that we bring, but we don't understand them. One is the monk sitting in a cave. So what he does is sitting with the closed eyes, but he's doing the greatest service to mankind. Second is a scientist in the laboratory, and the third is a scholar in the library.
Wow.
You can't see their outputs prominently, but they are thinking jobs. And Chanakya actually taught us how to think.
Right.
So let me give a simple example. That thinking is many times considered as worrying. And Hindi में कहे तो कैसे चिंतन करो चिंता मत करो. But nobody has trained you in thinking. I've been fortunate. Clairvoyance, that clarity comes in, and then when you act it. And of course we have some basic lessons or thoughts. Think before you do,
Yeah,
or as the tailor's principle, measure twice before you cut.
totally.
But that's just phrases.
Yeah.
Chanakya had a whole subject on how to think, and that's called Anvikshiki.
Totally, totally. No, in fact, because this book would have been missed by me, very frankly, provided if I had not been a meditator. because consciousness, mindfulness helps you anchor those thoughts. And for me, reading your book was like, wow, I got the framework, I got the approach, the map, to fix it. Besides that, my son also was not a conventional learner. So I had to put him into a framework of how to think, because he used to think, he used to be a gazer, stargazer, endlessly thinking, okay, but intelligent guy. He would gaze for 4 hours, he will come back and he will play some Mozart or Beethoven out of, the old English classic, which usually don't come in your muscle memory, naturally. So when I noticed these things and I realized this book is so potent with what you have brought out, it's like putting out Chanakya's brain. Look, this is how to do it. Thinking is a very critical foundation setting for our lives. As you heard Dr. Pillai, we think sochna is thinking. Busy hu, I'm stressed is thinking. No. We think thinking is binary, positive or negative. But I guess we missed the very important point which Dr. Pillai brought it out. Thinking realistic. Let's deep dive a little more on the 3 sides of thinking: positive, negative and realistic, right? We are tuned to think, अच्छा सोचा करो, अच्छा बोला करो, which is good to have, right? Positive and thinking. Negative नहीं सोचना है. किसी ने नहीं सिखाया realistic कैसे सोचते हैं. Maybe I think that's what you tried to pin through your book. Did you think that you have pinned it? Like, yes, this is how it's.
So after 22 books, it's still working.
It's still work in progress. Okay.
So we know that's practically working. So one is your own world of thoughts, but there comes your world of thoughts, our world of thoughts, and a world where there are no thoughts.
Right.
Maybe we are living in illusions.
Yeah.
Now when you told about your son, please understand, how can we judge somebody's thoughts as right or wrong based on our parameters?
Absolutely.
And that's what I feel in India. We like to put everybody into one box.
Right.
And say a good student means 98%.
Right.
98% also doesn't have a relevance.
Yeah.
Totally. These educational yardsticks, I couldn't have used for my child, right? Besides that, I remember, besides reading your book, there was something which very important happened in my life, was watching the series of Suresh Oberoi with Sister Shivani on the journey of souls.
Okay.
It's art of living, but not art of living. It's something to do with journey of souls.
Okay.
And when you look at someone at a soul level, it says that you will just drop your judgments, because soul is traveler, just like you. What will you judge? That itself requires a bent of mind to process these thoughts like this.
Sure.
So I think it just becomes a very important maze to solve.